Which stock do you like better? Tesla, stock symbol TSLA, or Nvidia, stock symbol NVDA? Which one do you got? In this video, I'm going to go through both of these charts. I'm going to go through the technical analysis of each one and tell you which one that I like as the best stock going forward. Starting off, let's look at Nvidia. You have this long-term rising trend line. This is the basis for this chart here that makes it pretty attractive to me at this point in time. So rising trend line, this yellow line, goes through this price point here again in December, and right now it's being tested again in January of 2025. So multiple tests, that's always a good sign. Now, it's not the cleanest of trend lines, but you can see right here in August of last year, it gapped below it, but it managed to finish above it at the close. Right here, it broke below it intraday, but still managed to finish right on that trend line before bouncing right away. Here you tested it on pretty much two different occasions in December, and then we finally got a minor bounce before consolidating, and then a ripping 3-day rally out of the stock. So now it's been pulling back over the last 4 days. It's threatening to break this rising trend line, and it looked like it was going to close below it, but it staged a pretty good rally that saw price get back above this rising trend line. So there's an opportunity for a bounce there. Now, in the short term, what I'm watching for here is this one, you have a little bit of resistance. We'll change the color here so it's not yellow like the trend line, but this orange line, it broke out above it initially for 2 days, and then it came right back down. Now, initially, what I was looking for was whether or not this stock would hold the breakout level. For a couple of days there, it looked like it was going to, and then it broke down below it on Friday of last week, and then gapped down even further today before rallying back into the close. So this level right here isn't important, nor going forward is this rising trend line here that it couldn't hold either. So we can get rid of both of them. What I do think is important, and we'll drag this line right here over here to the highs from June of last year. You have some resistance there. So that could cap the ability for the stock to rally substantially higher. However, at 133, it could go up to 153. That's a $20 gain on $133 stock. That's pretty solid right there. That's more than 10% there that can be had from a bounce play. Volume doesn't look like it's been too panicky on the sell-off. It's been mainly average to maybe a couple of days there was slightly above average. But overall, I don't necessarily think that there was any real panic selling outside of this first day of selling. And since then, that wave of selling has subsided. So that's Nvidia. I think there's the bounce play off of this rising trend line. Looks pretty good. But what about Tesla? When I look at Tesla, you have this, I wouldn't necessarily call it a methodical pullback, but it's been a fairly steady, stair-stepping pullback to the downside. So you have like 2 steps down, 1 step forward, 2 steps down, 1 step forward. You have also this rising trend line in the short term. And so far, that's been holding. You've been seeing multiple bounces from the one in November. And you also have the one in late December and here in January, where it keeps trying to hold this rising trend line in the short term. However, you have some declining resistance that it needs to break above. And right now, it has yet to do it. In fact, it closed right at this resistance level, this purple line. So it needs to get back above that resistance level. If it can do that, I think there's the potential for a breakout there with the opportunity to maybe go as much as like 20% higher. I mean, Tesla is one that has moved substantially higher. What worries me a little bit is the headline risk with it. We've seen some fundamentals that are starting to shift where they didn't sell as many cars in this past month. So that's a little bit of a concern there. You have upcoming earnings that could deter the stock and cause it to go a little bit lower, perhaps even filling some of these gaps here down below. I know that talking about getting back into the 200 seems like a long shot, but if it's a bad earnings report, it's very possible that it gets back down into those levels. I do like the chart technically. I'm a little bit concerned from a headline risk standpoint. Between the two, which one do I like? I like the fact that Nvidia has this rising trend line. I think this long-term trend line gives me some optimism. It also has been putting in higher highs throughout the course of this rally. So even though it's been barely a higher high, it's still a higher high. The resistance at 153, not as good of a price target. If Tesla breaks through this declining resistance, price target's much higher with Tesla than it is with Nvidia in the short term. However, I like the ability to manage the risk a little bit better with Nvidia, and that's always going to be a top priority for me when it comes to my trades. So for me, I can put the stop loss below the lows from December 17th. If those don't break, then I remain in the trade, hoping to be able to ride it back up into the 150s. With Tesla on the stop loss standpoint, you could justify putting it around 373, and if you're playing that breakout above about 405, that's a much wider stop loss than I probably would care to take. It's about 7-8% stop loss on Tesla versus Nvidia. It's going to be more about the 4% range. So between the two, which one do I like the best? I like Nvidia. I like the stop loss in Nvidia. I like the longer term patterns that are in place on Nvidia that support the stock underneath. While the profits might not be as great if both of them work out, I still like the risk management aspect of Tesla for being able to contain the risk going forward. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like and subscribe to my channel, and make sure to let me know down in the comments below, which one do you like? Are you more of a Tesla guy right now, or are you preferring Nvidia going forward? Let me know. Thank you guys, and God bless.